Greetings, everyone. As we have been hinting at for the last couple of weeks, HBO, or rather that is Warner Brothers, they just dropped a bombshell relative to the entertainment business, namely their entire upcoming slate, led by Dune, will be going straight to HBO Max. Of course, they're going to be in theaters as well, day and date, but since most theaters are closed, this effectively means it'll be going straight to HBO Max. Now, in this live roundtable, where I am joined by Tom Connors.
Hello.
And Rob Gallo, who doesn't like Dune.
Hello.
You just threw his ass under the bus.
And Script Doctor, who is a big fan of Dune.
Good morning. Or afternoon.
And we have a very special guest, Jeff from World Class Bullshitters. What does Dune mean to you?
I might be the Dune detractor on the panel. So
you mean the other Dune detractor?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rob's not a fan.
But I'll keep it to one sentence. I tried watching it in college. I didn't like it. I turned it off. That was over a decade ago.
This would be a big announcement if Dune was just the only thing that was announced, but it goes beyond that, right?
Yes, this is not just Dune. This is Warner Brothers' entire upcoming theatrical slate. These are both the medium budget movies and their big budget heavy hitters, like The Matrix, like Mortal Kombat. All of it will be going straight to HBO Max. Which of course isn't a huge surprise, but if this isn't a theatrical killer, nothing is. But we're going to get into exactly why it's being moved to HBO Max. And the reason might not be quite what you think. We will get back to that. But first, I want your reactions. Everything is now going to HBO Max. It's going day and day to theaters as well, but theaters no longer have exclusivity. What do you think this means? Script Doctor, let's begin with you.
I view it as bittersweet, specifically to the Dune part of things. I mean, it's great that it's going to get a release date, but I mean, this was intended for a theatrical release, and unfortunately, they're not going to get that. It's going to be extremely limited, my understanding. But it also harkens back to what comments I used to hear about when I was in college, which is that a lot of people just would rather be able to watch it at home or go to the theaters being optional. And that was a fad at the time, because I don't know if anyone remembers this, but there was a period in between 2005 and 2010 where a lot of the televised trailers for films had to have in like neon text in theaters, because so many people thought that movie that they're watching on TV could be picked up at the video store or be on video on demand at the time. And that was because there was a call for it at the start of streaming, but then that kind of shifted away. People started liking the theater experience again in the early teens, and now it looks like because of our uncontrollable circumstances, we're switching over to that streaming dominant side again.
Indeed. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this? And not just Dune, but everything else, like The Matrix, like Mortal Kombat. What else here is it that you wanted to see in theaters? What are your thoughts on this?
So I will just tell everyone I'm really shocked by this still, because we were on the air with the Bond commentary or the discussion, and all of a sudden this pops up. And like most people know, my brain fires a million miles a second about entertainment. So I'm always trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on in the world of entertainment. Like you guys, we put pieces together, we know things, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, to answer your question directly, outside of this shock, there are a lot of movies on this list that I'm personally excited for, because full transparency, we share HBO Max with somebody. So we've had it since day one, and I like it a lot already. But the movies on here that I'm pumped for, like, okay, Godzilla versus King Kong. Would I rather see it in theaters? Of course I would. But I just bought a brand new television. You know, Tom knows this. We've talked about it. These are all going to look awesome. So I'm very excited as a consumer to get all of these with something that I'm already paying for. But I would still go to support my favorite movies in theaters. Like, I would prefer to go see King Kong in the theater. I'd rather see Mortal Kombat, even Space Jam and the Suicide Squad and The Matrix, because I want to support the movies, but movies are a shared experience. I know everyone says, oh, each movie's personal to me. but I'm going to miss out on that shared experience for a lot of these big films.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, your thoughts. You also don't care too much for Dune, but how about everything else? And I'm going to get into a Swedish super chat.
Honestly, you know what? I like having the option of having to I like having the option of seeing something at home in the comfort of my own home, where there's no screaming children, and I don't have to put up with $8 bucket of popcorn. But at the same time, a lot of these are movies I was never planning to see. Honestly, yeah, okay. Would I like to see Godzilla versus King Kong? It would be nice. Wasn't planning on it. Dune, wasn't going to see that. Many States of Newark, wasn't going to see that. King Richard, wasn't going to see that. Matrix 4, I stopped at the Matrix. That was it.
Well, one movie that wasn't on this list, besides another one I'll get into, was this one here. Interestingly enough,
the Batman, or
yeah,
the Robert Pattinson man.
Yeah.
Has it even finished shooting? Because there's like
no. So that's
yeah,
a caveat.
I think that might be why. Yeah.
I'm not finished shooting the movie.
Yeah, but we did get a few super chats as we started off, plus this one in Norwegian, as you said, Andre.
It's actually in Swedish, but
Swedish.
yeah,
Okay,
I don't expect you to be able to tell the difference.
no, you said it. I should have remembered. It's my fault. I'm just this. Yeah. When you get to my piece, anyway.
I look at that and all I see is okay, that bad Swedish chef impression. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, this actually brings us into a really, really good point, because we're all talking about HBO Max, but as the one who is not based in North America can certify here, HBO Max is US exclusive. What does that mean for everyone not in the US? And that is kind of like what this question is about. This is then a 50 Swedish krona super chat from Mihon. I am now going to butcher the Swedish language. I am not Swedish myself, I'm Norwegian, but I understand a bit of Swedish. So what he says is, hej alla, eftersom HBO Max inte finns i Skandinavien, tror ni det kommer till HBO Nordic? Hälsningar från Sverige. Sköt om er där ute i världen. What that means, after the Swedish chef talk, is, hey everyone, since HBO Max isn't in Scandinavia, do you think it's going to come to HBO Nordic? Greetings from Sweden. Take care of yourself out there in the world. And here's the thing. HBO Max is only in the US, and what they have around the world is different licensing agreements, and these licensing agreements, they're going to vary a little bit from title to title and territory to territory. So I do not know the details of the arrangement that they have between HBO Max and HBO Nordic, but honestly, no, I don't think it's going to come to HBO Nordic. I think they're going to go to Netflix. Because I say that because I have seen loads of the titles that have been on HBO Max on Netflix, at least here in Norway, and not on HBO Nordic. Like, for instance, when they launched HBO Max and they had all of these DC movies, they were just there for 1 month, and then they had to let them go again because they had to license them back from their international partners for that particular period. And that's the same thing that we see right here, that all of these movies, this is what it says with the small writing, is that they're only on HBO Max for 1 month, and then they're gone again for a time period. And the reason for that, I believe, is that they're all already taken. They're promised to other distributors around the world, and Warner's have had to license them back to put them on HBO Max for a limited time frame. That is my take on that situation. Script, what's your thought on that?
I think it makes perfect sense, and this goes back to something we discussed many times over the last few months, is that not every country has all these streaming platforms or the infrastructure for streaming. So if you are to go something exclusive to streaming only, you're kind of cutting off a whole arm of your potential profit because there's no theaters. Now, in this case here, it looks like we're going to be getting kind of a mixed bag, so to speak. It's going to be in theaters and same day release on HBO Max for some titles, is my understanding. And so that's kind of one way to sort of like have your cake and eat it too. But yeah, in order for because HBO Max doesn't have that infrastructure worldwide like a Netflix does, and I believe also Amazon might. I think there's a number of countries that still don't have their access to, but still, they're big infrastructure. So you can license off properties to them for your long-term streaming options. And HBO Max kind of having to relicense that for themselves for 1 month just to get their subscriber numbers up. I would suppose that's the main reason. Yeah, is an interesting concept. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be on like HBO Norway or HBO France or HBO Canada or any of those types of things. I think it's going to go. I think you're right. It's going to go on to whatever streaming platform had made the deal with Warner Brothers and AT&T for that film. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that for everyone in Sweden, you'll be seeing it on Netflix. That's my guess.
Now, is this my part where I get to say it?
Yes, yes, Tom. Before, we had one more super chat.
We had a couple more. Actually,
yeah, we have a couple of more. But since we were on the distribution part, then we will get into that first, and we'll get back into the other super chats later. Mills sent us 14 South African runs. So Donkey, will these movies get DVD releases?
Yeah, they will. Warner Brothers has its own distribution and they'll do it. And then, like Andre said, not only that, there's a reason why they're only going to be there for a month, but I'll get into all that. But yeah, I think so. What do you guys think?
Oh, it'd be silly for them not to.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. They have their own distribution network, and compared to other companies, they also have less overhead when they make DVD and Blu-ray. So it's better for them to have that as a back pocket option.
Yeah, I'm with you. Why not? Because not everyone's going to have access to streaming or HD. Even though it's 2020, DVDs still sell. So
DVDs still, especially in countries that don't have that internet, right? So,
and you know what? And Comcast just decided to impose caps on everybody in the states that even in all 39 states they service too.
They're evil.
Yes, they are. And they're saying, well, if you don't want a cap, well, you're going to have to pay us an extra $25 extra. And you know what? How about no, I go buy the DVD and I watch it at home. Okay. How about that? How about we start there? I think it's going to be an option for people who are, whose internet is lacking or who, or just don't want want the physical media.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, no, this just also ties nicely into what Roger Haynes said for $5 Canadian. It would be nice if they gave people a choice and release it in theaters and streaming, but well, they do, because here's like the thing: it's not going just to HBO Max; it is going to HBO Max and theaters simultaneously, at least on paper. Tom, there's going to be some practical consequences.
Yeah, there's a caveat to that. Here's the thing. In the past, anytime a movie has been on streaming at the same time as it's being released in theaters, none, and I mean none of the major chains will carry it. Just recently this year, Trolls 2 is what kicked off a lot of this crap. Bill and Ted was another one that was not carried in major theaters because it was on streaming at the same time. This is not something I see that the major. I'm waiting for waiting for the theater association to come out, freaking the fuck out right now. I can guarantee you what they're going to say. They're going to say they are not carrying any of these movies in any of the major theaters. You're only going to be able to see these movies probably outside of the U.S. anyway. You'll have a lot easier access, but in the U.S., unless you got a local theater that isn't a chain, they ain't going to carry these movies unless there's some kind of special deal they've made somehow that is beyond me, because they just barely made this deal with Universal on the 4-week window bullshit. I don't see AMC, Regal, Cinemark, any of those theater chains carrying it in the US at all.
Yeah, indeed. So what this means is that on paper, it's a simultaneous theatrical and HBO Max release. In actual reality, it's mostly an HBO Max exclusive release, depending on where you are.
Right. And I guess here's where do you want to do the super chats or should I do my piece?
No, we'll do some of the more super chats afterwards. So, Tom, I know you've been waiting for this. Let us all hear it, because everyone now is going to.
I fucking knew it. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We saw this coming a mile away, and the reason for that isn't just a pandemic. There's more to it. And Tom, I know you've been wanting to say this, so the stage is yours. Take it away. Explain to us, why is this being done when it's not just because of the pandemic?
Well, I should preface this with, I do have an inside track, so it's not like I'm Nostradamus or I'm just, playing the whole I guessed it game. No, I actually knew things were going on behind the scenes for a while now. I have an informant or inside source that has been telling me there's been some major secret quote unquote meetings going down at HBO Max, and the story going around was that they are upset and pissed right now. They have nothing to sell HBO Max with. They were expecting Game of Thrones series that didn't happen, and Disney jumped the gun, so that caused them to jump the gun, which in turn, HBO has nothing to sell right now. I was pretty much hinted that this was all going to happen. And not only that, they're looking at getting things like No Time to Die and working out some other deals to try and beef up HBO Max right now, because let's face it, not even 3 weeks ago now, Disney came out and said they had over 70 million subscribers. HBO Max is right around the same place as things like CBS All Access. They have less than 10 million subscribers right now. That means this thing is dead in the water. Go ahead, sir.
When Disney announces their subscriber numbers, we know that those numbers include free subscriptions with, I look to get a Bose speaker. Yeah. They're trying to give me a year of Disney for free. So we have seen, I know the numbers don't lie to a degree, but I'm just curious that, if when Disney announces that, if it's an honest number or it's just,
well, you can bet those numbers are inflated.
Yeah, you can put an asterisk next to it. But the other thing is to go with that is like all the Verizon customers. Now, I think this month, unless you're on a certain tier, you no longer get it for free. But just the same, the way the numbers go into the company, basically Disney sells Verizon all these free accounts for a less of a price than what you would pay for a normal subscription. In turn, Verizon counts it as a coupon deal. In the end, everybody wins. It's kind of like when the PS3 came out, they threw in copies of Spider-Man 3. That's why the Spider-Man 3 Blu-ray was the highest selling Blu-ray until I think Avatar came out, if I'm not mistaken, for that specific reason, because it came with the PS3. They can count these as numbers because it's like a pre-sold, pre-packaged deal. But again, just even being fair, you can say that easily Disney Plus has 50 million subscribers, and it doesn't matter if it's 70 or not. That the fact that HBO Max only has 8 million subscribers right now is why they're doing this. It has nothing to do with theaters being closed, and this is what I've been trying to tell people for weeks now. This is what I've been told. They don't give a shit. If it's not about affording anything. AT&T is one of the few people that are fine. They could wait 2 years to release Wonder Woman if they wanted to. This has nothing to do with theaters and everything to do with HBO Max.
Yeah, you're talking about a popularity contest and also continued revenue within that platform. And you're right. When you have 77 million subscribers, but you have a percentage of that being promotional with regards to other services, you have to take into the math that, it's not going to be that $8.99 or $14.99 a month per subscriber. It's actually probably going to be, maybe a third of that less or more. Who knows? So, when HBO Max is looking at it overall, they're like, wow, because they have 7 times what we have, even if it's not a full numbers, we're still not doing as well to compete with those other service providers.
Exactly, because here's the thing, and this cannot be overstated enough. So everyone pay attention now, because here's the key point. HBO Max, the way that it's been spoken about, with all their titles that's coming, with the Snyder Cut and everything, you would think that they would be in the conversation with and in direct competition with the likes of Netflix, and Disney Plus, which are kind of like the two giants in the streaming markets right now. But in reality, they are not. When you look at where they are in the marketplace, they're right now.
You forgot
they're not-
about Amazon too, though, Andre. Don't
Yeah,
forget
and
about
Amazon. But in any event, right now, in this moment, they are not competing with Amazon. They're not competing with Netflix, and they're not competing with Disney Plus because they're nowhere near them. The ones that they're competing with is CBS All Access. That's how low their numbers are. And that is why this is being done, because they are losing it at this early stage in the streaming wars. This is a fight for the future of the entertainment industry, basically, because theaters, they're not going to come back to what they were, not in a long, long time. Like, forget anything about the vaccine and stuff. Like, viewer patterns are going to change because of this. Future is all about streaming and long-form entertainment. So right now, it's a matter of getting early dominance. And that fight for early dominance, HBO Max is right now in the process of losing, and they need content to get back into the competition. Is that about right, Tom? Do you have something to add to that?
No, that's exactly on point, and that's why they're rumored to be in talks with MGM about picking up the streaming rights to No Time to Die. I think that's why they're also in talks with MGM on picking up like Stargate as a property, possibly to exploit. I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing more and more things like the Pattinson-related Batman series. We're going to hear about the Sisterhood of Dune. You know, like we said, all these movies that haven't finished filming yet, I'm sure will start getting announced for both. Again, like we said, this is a big on so many levels. You've got Warner Brothers just decided to end the entire fucking streaming war with the theaters with this. I mean, again, like I knew this was coming, but this is still kind of like a blow. I thought if anything, Disney would be the one to decide this. Like I was waiting for an announcement. As soon as I heard Black Widow is coming to Disney Plus, I knew that was going to be it. I didn't expect it this soon with Warner Brothers because I knew they had something to work out with Legendary still for Godzilla. And of course, No Time to Die is completely absent from this because that hasn't been settled yet. But that was because once HBO came to the table, Apple got interested again.
Tom, did they say Black Widow's coming to Disney Plus?
No, they haven't yet.
Oh, I
I
thought it still has a theatrical release.
Yeah,
It
operating
is.
word is
Yeah.
yet. It's going to. Not
Yeah.
necessarily to Disney Plus, but that could be the launch title for Disney 18 Plus.
Exactly. And here's the thing, and there's precedent for this. In the history of all wars we've had for formats and all that kind of shit, Disney has decided each and every one of them for the last 30 years. That and porn. But
well, there's one thing to sort of note here, that because AT&T is the parent company and they're also a service provider, if they wanted to really mess with the optics of their subscriber status, they could give every customer of AT&T HBO Max free for 3 months, and then they could report those numbers as greater than anything Disney Plus or Amazon would have, because there's a lot of people that are on AT&T as a service.
Yeah. Well, the sad part is they didn't even have to do this. They should have done what like Gary and other people were talking about before when this first started kind of rolling. And I wasn't sure what was happening yet, and neither did anybody else. And that was, I don't know why they just didn't take HBO Now and HBO Go and roll that over into HBO Max.
Yeah, and also the DC Universe streaming, right?
Yeah,
So
all of them,
that
because they would have had an instant 60 million subscribers probably.
Yep. But
Because
here's why they didn't do that. They wanted to get
Now-
yeah.
Go ahead.
They wanted to pull more money out of each individual customer for
Exactly.
free services from one customer. Yeah.
Because I think they rolled over HBO Go, but not HBO Now, which HBO Now had like 40 million subscribers. So if they would have rolled that one over, it would have they would have been in competition with, everybody. And that's what I do. That's the only thing about this whole thing going into this that Andre and myself and everybody else we've talked to about it hasn't predicted. And that was that HBO Max would be at the tail end of this thing. We thought they would be one of the big 3 or 4 in this battle. And clearly the battle's not done yet. But like Andre said, HBO Max is like getting left in the dust in a very bad way. And there's many reasons for this beyond the fact that they have nothing coming but only one of the many Game of Thrones spinoffs they were promised. And I was told by my source that they'll be lucky to have that by 2022. So, I mean, and I'm sure Andre has a few things to say about this real quick before we move on to the next portion of the subject or how we want to move on here with this because I know we got a few super chats as well. But no, I think this is a big death knell for theaters. This basically just called it. I mean, there's no way Warner Brothers has just about everything that Disney doesn't. So this is it.
Yeah, as I saw in the comment, Warner does what Disney don't, or something to that end. But yeah, I butchered that. But anyway, yeah. Here's the thing with HBO Max: they have loads of great content coming, but the challenge for them is that they had to launch before they were ready. They were forced to launch HBO Max by the market before they had the content for it. Because they didn't have any massive launch title like Disney Plus. That was launched with The Mandalorian as the flagship title. That's the whole role of the Snyder Cut. That is supposed to be The Mandalorian for HBO Max. But that's not ready until a year from now almost. And what do they have between now and then? Almost nothing. They had to push Wonder Woman 84 there, and then what do they have between that and the Snyder Cut? Still nothing. That's why we're seeing this thing right here. So their entire slate was transformed from potential $100 million, even billion-dollar movie in some cases, to loss leaders, the bunch of them. So they're going to take a bath on this financially. But it's all being done to now prop up HBO Max for the future. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So Script Doctor, do you have something to add to this before we hear what you have to say in Super Chats?
No, I think that's pretty much it. You cover all the bases. I mean, if I were an exec working at HBO Max, I'd be pleading with AT&T to do what I suggested, which is give it free to customers for 3 months to get those numbers up for a quarter, just to sort of raise our stock prices and value and sort of kind of give a little nudge to Disney Plus that they're not the only ones in town, and then start greenlighting as much miniseries and whatever content that they can get away with regards to the filming restrictions, to start putting some stuff out there to really keep those free subscribers on, so that they actually start paying for the subscription.
Well, here's the other thing. How many of these subscription services are you going to have? Honestly.
Well, that's something we've talked about. And that's where the streaming wars are
It's going to be like cable packages.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot, and it's going to be
exactly. And that's the whole point of the war. This is a matter of being the must-have service. So you have the big ones. They all want to be the thing that you must have, and you must have in whatever package you get. Well, so it's going to be the big ones, and it's going to be the also rans. And right now, as it is in this moment, HBO Max, despite how much the people that basically hang out in our corner of the internet may know the name, is among the also rans. It's losing. And that's what this is all about, getting up into that top tier. Yeah. The must-have service that everyone must have. Because if they can get there, then at least on paper, they should be fairly well sorted. Just consider Disney. Disney Plus is the only thing that's working for them right now in this moment. I mean, their entire share price is being held up by the perceived success of Disney Plus. How, if that's completely inflated, if that's a balloon, if there's reality behind it, that's beyond the scope of this discussion. But that's exactly what this is all about, Rob. This is about getting up from over the curve, because people can only afford so many streaming services, and they have to be among the ones that everyone must have.
Well, and Patrick says, wow, this is dumb. You mean they can't wait for more months? Things will most likely be back to normal. Well, I don't know if you missed what we were talking about right before, Patrick, but as I was saying, this has nothing, and I mean, and I don't know how else to express it, nothing to do with theaters being closed. I'm saying, if the world was normal right now and theaters were still open, if HBO Max was still in this position, they would still be considering this move. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain this any other way.
Yeah, and to address your other point, no, things will not be back to normal by summer. The economy of the entire Western world has been shattered It will not be back for
Well, hail Yellow
years
Flash.
to come. But again, that is completely beyond the
as we've
scope
been
of this discussion,
reporting,
but yeah.
Yellow Flash, HBO or CBS All Access is pretty much dead, but HBO Max is the only thing that's competing with it right now. But no, like that's getting rolled over into Paramount Plus. CBS All Access, and actually I've been hearing more rumors that they're just bleeding customers now. Like they can't hang on to anything. I heard their numbers are way back below 4 million.
Well, you
but
mean
I can't confirm that. That's just
you mean the
rumor.
first trans actor on Star Trek wasn't a draw for them? Oh, hard to imagine. I am shocked. Well, not that shocked.
No, and again, I can't. Like I said, I cannot express this enough. This has nothing to do with theaters being closed, and has everything to do with HBO Max only having 8 million subscribers. That's it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Before we move on to some super chats, I have a very, very special message to everyone out there who is now outside of the US and who may be wondering, where am I going to be able to see Dune and all of these other things that will be coming to HBO Max? Because again, HBO Max is US exclusive. No one else outside of North America has HBO Max. So Dune and all the other movies will be going to wherever they have been licensed internationally, and that's going to vary a little bit from territory to territory. On that particular note, I would like to, as some people have hinted in the chat, to mention that Midnight's Edge is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. And Surfshark, if you use that, that has this magnificent feature that you can bypass geo-blocking. So, for instance, say that it's on Netflix in a territory that you don't have access to. Well, if you get Surfshark VPN, you can just change your location and instantly get access to 15 different libraries. So get Surfshark VPN. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Until then, you can just Google it, find Surfshark, and then type in the keyword midnight, because that'll get you a discount of 84% off the list price, plus 4 extra months for free. And now, with that mandatory sales pitch out of the way, we are going to get into what you are saying in the super chats.
Not just informative, Andre, but money saving as well, right?
Exactly. Like whenever we do sponsorships, we're going to do the ones that you actually get some kind of benefit from. Now, Open Airlock Policy sent us $2.50 without any kind of message. So thank you. We appreciate the support. And Lost Jedi 22 said, imagine going back in time to argue that we should break up Ma Bell to save cinemas. What a world. And Roger Haynes said, it would be nice if they gave people a choice. Yeah, we mentioned that. We are getting a choice. John Willis said, HBO had better learn to compete with YouTube and come up with a chat stream, an exclusive stream model. Yeah, let's hope they accept your challenge. And Jorge Burgos Jr. says, no offense to Rob, I got 3 kids and I take them. Probably to cinemas.
Well, as long as you know, I mean, that's a personal opinion, and again, this has nothing to, there's going to be 100 different opinions on whether or not theaters should stay or go. That has nothing to do with this argument. Warner Brothers just decided for you.
Yeah, they kind of did. And Mr. Tickletrunk said, last movie I thought was worth watching in a theater was Arrival. I want non-formulaic films. Is the Dune trilogy dead? Incredibly frustrating. Yeah, here's the thing. I think that's going to depend entirely on how much subscription it drives to HBO Max. Like, if that's a huge thing, and they've already shifted it from expecting to earn 1 billion at the box office to loss leader, then do not be surprised if they are going to film the already announced Dune part, well, not announced, but already planned Dune Part 2, and the one that hasn't been talked so much about, Part 3, and make them HBO Max exclusives as well. Expect that if it's successful. putting Dune out there. That would be my thought. But I'm curious to hear what the rest of you have to say about it. Script, for instance.
Well, I mean, I'm actually a little bit distracted on Arrival. Not this person thinking Arrival's not formulaic. It's very formulaic. The reason you don't recognize the formula is because of the entertainment aspect of it. The way that they tell the story is its own little thing. It's still very formulaic. It has a beginning, middle, end. Has a conflict. Has a goal. Has a resolution. It has those are all parts of formula. So what you really want to focus on is that, yeah, you want entertaining films that don't pull you out of the movie. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just really distracted by that formulaic part. The rest of the question just completely went out of my head.
Yeah, no, basically, do you think that we can get Dune Part 2 and even Part 3 when Part 1 is no longer going to be earning the billion they no longer expected it to earn in theaters? When instead it's going to be a huge money drain. Will we now be getting sequels if this one brings in subscribers?
If it brings in subscribers and is talked about in like just dominates the conversation, yeah, they will. I don't think HBO would ever, or Warner Brothers would ever consider not investing into it if it is successful and popular. They might have to change a little bit of how much they're going to spend on it and how they're going to deliver that out. Is it going to be, the question being is it going to be two actual theatrical style sequels on the streaming service, or are they going to go the miniseries route because they can amortize the costs over several episodes to drag out a subscription from a customer to offset that investment? That's the biggest question that's up in the air, and we won't know that until we get that actual release of Dune. That'd be the better time to sort of speculate, as it were.
Yeah, that also answered the question from Mills, who asked, does Dune become a pilot for more adaptations? And the answer to that is, yeah, hopefully, if it brings in subscribers and loads of them. Alexander Wilson says, I knew this was going to happen because Regal started to permanently close movie theaters on the US East Coast. There will be less theaters. Yeah, it won't be anymore now. And Silver Nova says, the main thing that bothers me now is that, in my opinion, sci-fi movies are always better on the big screen.
Well, yeah, you have that. And here's the thing. A lot of these theaters are going to close, guys. This is going to be a patch where things are going to get weird. But there was the whole deal with studios being able to own theaters. That's out the window now. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen is, after a little bit of time, the studios are going to start investing in buying up all the properties. They're going to reopen theaters because Disney's going to need theaters open for things like Avatar 2 and 3. They're not going to be able to just dump those on Disney Plus as lost leaders. Now, because on the plus side of this, pun not intended, you know, they will get more direct numbers knowing exactly how many people are watching, and the things that are popular, we're going to get more of. Those things that are not, we're not going to get so much of, because, you know, HBO is going to know exactly what they're showing is bringing in the customers. If 100 million people watch Dune as opposed to the 20 million people who watch, you know, Mortal Kombat, well, we're not going to get another Mortal Kombat, but they'll definitely give us another Dune, for instance. And I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm just saying that's part of this. But the other side of this is you have things like Star Trek Discovery and all these other shows that we're going to have to trudge through because of the companies that's what they're about, is they're about getting money from these streamers and creating this crap. It's so many words. But again, they'll end up buying these theaters. There'll be this big resurgence with like Avatar 2 or 3 probably, or something like that, or whatever next big thing it is, because eventually the studios are going to have to start coming up with some other way of revenue. Not every studio is an AT&T or a Disney where they have a theme park or are a service provider and have extra revenue to spend.
Yeah, indeed. Moving on from there. Willie Woodward says, regarding your previous points, disagree, Tom. Theater chains cucked before the studios and will again.
I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah. No, they're in a limited framework here. Like the best case scenario that I could see with regards to movie theaters is that eventually down the road, they kind of go into a little bit of exclusivity, sort of like how a Broadway or West End is for like the stage theater productions.
Yeah,
like
your
there's just a
things
corner
like your Alamo
somewhere.
Draft Houses and stuff will
Yeah.
probably be okay. Like a lot of the ones that have figured out, you know, if we show like boxing matches and shit like that, they'll probably be okay. Local theaters will find a way around this shit.
Mhm.
The big chains are dead.
Yeah, your chains are not going to be your chains anymore.
You know, that's what theaters did actually way back in the day. They would have boxing matches, pay-per-view and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
closed circuit TV. They would concerts. I mean, you know, I'm a big Beatle fan, and actually, the Washington D.C. concert. If you get the trailer, if you're lucky enough to see the trailer, that was before that. Hey, check out the fabulous Beatles on a bill with the Beach Boys, only on closed circuit TV. You know, they're going to go back to that. That's
yeah, like
easy.
the new pay-per-view kind of thing, but it's you
Yeah.
gotta go. And
Yeah,
Sander
theaters-
Hammerslag, Peacock is Universal's streaming service, and they're kicking HBO's ass right now.
Yeah, they are. And on top of that, too, the other alternative for theaters to do is basically more festival runs and more buying independent, locally made content to share as showcases, because they're going to need to get people into their seats in order to survive. And with all the content as being primarily funneled through streaming services, they're going to have a lot of open windows for independents and other people to sort of take advantage of. It's going to be expensive for them in order to cover operating costs, but it's one of the rare options that they'll have to explore down the road.
Yeah, now, as Natasha points out here, there are a few areas that will be getting Wonder Woman in like 2 weeks in theaters. And as Andre was pointing out, some areas they haven't got HBO Max, or almost all areas, they don't have HBO Max, and they'll have some other kind of deal in that area, whether it's through theaters or Netflix in that area or what have you.
But you might not get it day and date. Here's the thing.
You may not get it
can
the same
it
day.
Weeks later, and also depending on where you are, you might not get it all. You might be shit out of luck.
Well, I think they'll find ways to get it everywhere, because eventually the pirate monster is gonna loom, and that's the.
Oh yeah, that's gonna happen real quickly.
I mean, honestly, that's probably something we should talk about real quick before we jump back into super chats.
before we we actually
Jeff,
have
let's
a
start
super
with
chat
you.
about that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and read the super chat, and then we'll start with Jeff and see what you guys think about how piracy is going to affect this.
Yeah, but let's do it with the super chat. Badass Ant for £2 says, "What about the loss from piracy?"
Well, I personally think it's going to be a huge thing, because the running joke is whenever a company or a studio announces, oh, December 17th on Disney Plus, somebody makes a meme, December 17th on the Pirate Bay. So every big movie is going to get pirated. It's just what's going to happen. Like, it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the push for in about a year or two for the studios to get behind some kind of resurgence of theaters. I don't know. What do you think, Rob? What do you think, Script?
Well, if it's out there in the ether, it's going to get pirated. I mean, it's just the way it goes, man. There's people that are a lot smarter than I am that know how to do this stuff, and it's an inevitability. And like you said,
yeah, everything is going to be pirated. That's unfortunately unavoidable. Studios can mitigate that by investing in services that make it easier for the customer to get the stuff for an affordable price. And if they can also include additional content of that initial piece, that is also kind of helpful, because one thing that pirates don't do is they don't do special features, they don't do commentaries, they don't do behind the scenes or anything of that nature, at least not in the numbers that can impact. So they have to be able to offer some additional like upsell aspect of it for free with their content in order to at least sustain themselves or pique the interest of the user. Because there's no matter what laws or regulations you put in place, you're never going to fully be able to crush piracy. There's always going to be someone creative enough to get around those.
I just keep thinking of Lemmy from Motorhead. Yeah, go out and buy a new Motorhead album. If you can't afford, go out and buy it. Go and steal it. You know, just. I mean, we're gonna. Yeah, I mean, well, and I always say, you know, coming from the music world, where you see a lot of piracy. I always say, listen, I wouldn't have to pirate it if you just gave it to me at an affordable price. You know, if you didn't want to screw me over at every turn, then you know what? Then people are gonna want to buy a legit copy. You know how many? Yeah, you know how many albums that weren't available for years that we had to get through illicit means.
Well,
Listen,
yeah,
I'm
like
not condoning the practice, but I mean,
piracy totally changed the music industry, but the music industry is a little bit different than the movie industry. The music industry has always been artificially bloated, and we learned that, right, Rob?
oh yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing is everything costs 10 times as much as it should, and we've learned in the day and age of Billie Eilish and all these other people and Taylor Swift and whatnot, you can be your own self-made superstar now. That when it comes to music. Movies, on the other hand, that has yet to be kind of tapped into. And I think what we're going to see is, and I think, you guys are bringing up great points in the chat about it and stuff like that. Yeah, this is like a short-term business plan right now. They're going to need theaters again to otherwise, the only thing that's going to be left is the streamers and the two big ones. And three big ones with Universal, I guess we should say, because I keep forgetting Comcast owns Universal. But Andre, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this.
On the piracy thing?
Oh yeah, the piracy thing. Well, that's just what I'm saying. Like, they're gonna have to find a way. I mean, Netflix, I'm sure they were paying attention to how that affected piracy, like when Netflix started. So I'm thinking they think this is the better route to go. Less piracy, but I'm sure they always pay attention to it. We know they pay attention to it.
Yeah, but again, to me, this just underlines the point that they want to be among those really, really big must-have services. They want to be right up there with Netflix, Disney Plus. But here's like the thing, that if you already have Netflix, if you already have Disney Plus, and then maybe you go and you pirate something else from the other services that you don't really care about, then the big ones, they're going to be fine. Like, piracy is something that's going to a much larger extent be a problem for those that aren't in the top tier services, because they are the ones who are going to have their content pirated to a greater degree. This again only goes to show that, yeah, you're going to have stuff like Dune and Wonder Woman, all of that. Yeah, it's going to be pirated. But here's like the thing, that if they put all of that out there and the service grows, they're going to get more and more subscribers. And the subscribers that are already paying a fixed monthly fee, they have less incentive for pirating the content that's already on that platform, because they already have access to it. That's, again, part of the reason why they have to be among the top tier ones, because that's going to not eliminate, but it will automatically reduce the problem of piracy. Like, for instance, for CBS All Access, it's going to be a huge problem, because probably most of the people watching, for instance, Star Trek Discovery or Picard and stuff like that aren't necessarily going to be paying subscription fees.
No, you make a good point, but that also goes back to something that's kind of interesting with regards to Peacock, because they have tiers. Like, they have a base tier that's free, but it has advertisement in it, and yet those you sign up for it for free, but you count as a subscriber. And then you have a secondary tier with like limited ads, and you have a top tier with 0 ads that has a full subscription process. And because Peacock is still relatively new, even though they don't have as much content by comparison to the others, their numbers have skyrocketed because they have those tier options. And on top of that too, I've done a quick search. I can't seem to find anything on the normal sites of what you would pirate off of those shows yet. And it's probably just due to the fact that why pirate something that's already kind of free?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to, where like I feel like the studios have kind of paid attention to where they're like, look, because they know how much they're losing when it comes to piracy. They probably saw that, with Netflix, piracy went down because, if it's there, it's accessible. Why would you pirate it?
Mm-hmm. But it also harkens back to the old model of TV back before cable. I mean, all you had to do for TV is you bought a TV, and then your antennas hooked into the signal, and then you would watch shows for free. The only caveat was that there'd be commercials, and that model might have to end up being returned to the streaming point, which means that, yeah, you're kind of back to where it all began 50 years ago.
Yeah. Basically,
the only option being you can rewind and go back forward if you missed something.
Hulu is going to be kind of like the norm. Like, I don't know if you guys have Hulu up their script, but like, I know CBS All Access has the same thing where they have a tier with commercials. Like, yeah, you're right. We're going to start seeing commercials creep back in. The plus side is it'll amortize some of the cost, but I doubt we'll see a lot of that savings. That's the problem.
Oh no,
Because
I don't think it's
Netflix
gonna be
just
anywhere
jumped
near.
their price up again.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think it's going to offset enough for there to be a solid growth element there.
Yeah, but yeah, to pretty much cap off the piracy thing. The thing is in the end, the only people it really hurts are the independents, are the small
Yep.
people, like the John Schnaps, the Tom Conkles. Those are the people that get hurt by piracy.
Yes, indeed.
And then it also affects like things like it's probably why it's a good reason why we probably didn't see a Judge Dredd 2 is because it got pirated more so than it got bought. I know that's another reason why things we'll get into in another interview coming out here as well had issues. So again, this is something that they do pay attention to in Hollywood, but the only ones who are really hurt by it are the smaller guys.
Yeah, and that's why they're racing now to get to the top, because the closer to the top you are, the less affected you are by piracy. And with that, let's move on with some super chats. Tonister3 says HBO needs continuous content too. Yeah, they all do. And the Fessman93 says, so we can expect Black Widow for Disney Plus. Count on it. And I think it's going to be again, I cannot claim credit for this. This was reported by Clownfish TV and Pirates and Princesses, but according to their scoops, it may be the launch title for Disney 18 Plus. This would not surprise me. They have Disney have a press conference. We're going to be announcing new content in 1 week from now on December 10th. So expect to hear Black Widow going straight to streaming at that time. And Trenchman says, does this mean Ninja Assassin 2 for Netflix or Max? Tom, was Ninja Assassin 2 in these titles? I can't say I'm too familiar with that.
It was not in the listed titles. Real quick, I can run through the list that they have so far. And again, I'm sure this is going to grow as we go on. The little things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, In the Heights, Space Jam: A New Legacy, The Suicide Squad, Reminiscence, Malignant, Dune, The Many Saints of Newark, King Richard, Cry Macho, and Matrix 4. So yeah, like they're planning on this going way into next summer, basically, is what this tells me. Yeah. On top of everything else. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And as for that specific movie, I don't know. Alexander Wilson says, don't forget AT&T brought DirecTV for $63 billion and are trying to sell it for $15 billion. They are in crazy debt. They need revenue soon. Actually, they need two things. One thing is they need revenue, and they can get that by divesting. Like they got a couple of billion for Simon & Schuster that they just divested themselves of. But what they really need is to do like what Disney did. Look at Disney. They have lost billions this year, but still their share price went up. Based on the perceived success of Disney Plus.
Paramount has been amortizing a lot of their stuff. They've been selling a lot of shit off to Netflix. That's why and Amazon. Coming to America is coming to Amazon here in what, 2-3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, and then they're gonna have Beverly Hills Cop 4 if that ever gets filmed on Netflix. So that's something they've already pre-sold. So that's what Paramount's doing, and they said this in a press release. Like they're planning on continuing to allow a lot of their stuff out on other services, so they can bring in money, so they can pay for all this other stuff. Because every week they're planning on having what would you call it, mid-level movie, Andre? Premiere on. They're going to bounce back and forth between I think it's the Paramount Network, Paramount HD or something like that, and one of their other major networks. I can't remember now offhand, but anyway, they're going to show them on there, and then they're all going to be on Paramount Plus. I don't know which one they're going to premiere on first, but it's going to begin with a Kevin Costner film. And I've brought up, this may be why we're not seeing any Star Trek movies theatrically, is that's possibly what they're going to do with this con thing. And again, speculation. all this is speculation, but I have a feeling that we're going to see that. And that somebody brought up, straight to DVD and Blu-ray movies, or straight to DVD and VHS movies in the day. That's what these are going to be. That mid-level movie, not quite low-level TV movie, but not quite theatrical. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be still well budgeted, but not low budget, but not high budget. Anyway, you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's like the thing. That's why they have to like license their movies back for HBO Max, but it gives them revenue by licensing them out. Plus, if they are able to get a crap ton of new subscribers for HBO Max, that's going to give their share price a very much needed boost. And if they get a boost in share price, then they're going to be able to hold off the investors or the creditors a little bit longer. So that's what it's all about.
And before we get back into super chats, John Willis is right. We got over 1,500 people watching. Please hit that like and thumbs up button or whatever you want to call it. And do check out these guys like Script Doctor and Jeff from World Class Bullshitters. He's got to head out here. So why don't you tell him real quick about yourself, Jeff, for those who may not actually know who you are. I know it's hard to believe, but real quick.
Folks, you can find me with Tom every Tuesday night on the High Council on my channel, World Class Bullshitters. We're getting ready to do our second printing of the comic with the Fandom Menace cover. Tom's a part of that. So, and it's being painted by Anna, that Star Wars girl.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm letting people know a little bit. I'll be showing it in a couple weeks. But yeah, you can find me on my channel. We're on Twitter. We're on WCBS Gaming on Twitch. We have the new Xbox and we have a bunch of the new games. So if you guys want gaming content, we have that as well. So you can find me tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the WCBS podcast. We'll be covering this. We'll be covering a few other things as well, like David Prowse's memory. So join us tonight for more fun. When you're not watching Midnight's Edge and Tom's morning shows, you can find us. There's never a lack of content anywhere, a gap, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to get you on one of the morning shows one of these days too. But
just shoot me a message, man. I saw you hit, the guy from fucking Commando, Leslie Vernon, right? Let off some Steve Bennett.
Yeah, Vernon Wells. Yeah, that was
Vernon
awesome.
Wells.
Excuse me, not Leslie Vernon. Leslie Vernon is the guy from the horror movie, I think. Anyway, sorry.
I knew who you meant. No, that's we absolutely got to have you on. So I'll get a hold of you about that soon, man. It was great having you today, and great having you for Bond earlier too. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, that's what we jumped from. Before this, we'd just watched From Russia with Love. So,
well, I gotta say before I go, it's really cool still to hang out with the Midnight's Edge guys, because before we ever had a YouTube channel, I was watching Midnight's Edge myself. So, Andre, Rob, Tom, Script Doctor, it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And Tom, I'll talk to you on probably in a few hours on the phone. So I'll talk to you later.
Good. Take care, guys.
See ya.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Yeah, check out World Class Bullshitters if you guys haven't yet. Great channel. Anyway, where were we with super
yes,
chats?
with super chats. We got Brett Cohen sent us $10 Australian saying, double checked. Max is available on Foxtel, a cable service for $49.95 a month. The kicker is you need to upgrade to the drama pack at $15 a month. Glad our cinemas are open here. So yeah, the HBO Max isn't available everywhere. That's the message there. And Tonister3 says, imagine what Disney Plus could have without Kathleen Kennedy now. Yeah, thank God they have The Mandalorian, let's say. And ActionCom says for $5, what do you think the actors and directors on these projects are thinking right now that they're being used as a bait for streaming service? I'm going to throw this one to you, Script Doctor, first, since you're actually an industry insider working on scripting movies. How do you, in your experience, how do you think that the directors and stars are thinking about the movies that they thought were going to be this huge billion-dollar blockbusters are now suddenly loss leaders on HBO Max?
I'm pretty sure they're going to be pretty annoyed by this, and that's putting it politely. But for the ones that are not the top tiers, they're going to be looking at this as work and going to be grateful and happy for it. I would imagine people like, say, for instance, James Gunn, because we know that the Suicide Squad is going to HBO Max. I think he's going to be disappointed, but at the same time relieved that at least his movie is going to be shown to people. I would think even the same thing for Denis Villeneuve for Dune. But for some of the other films out there, I think the Wachowskis, with regards to The Matrix 4, are going to be really upset with that. I think people like Christopher Nolan are going to be completely upset and resistive to it, because some of those other directors, they're more about the attention on themselves, more so than the content that they create. And that's going to be a dividing factor with regards to the ego that's in Hollywood that everybody has in one way or another. I think it's going to cause some divide, but I think the streaming services themselves are going to look at, if these directors, these prestigious directors are going to give us a hard time, then it's probably better just to sort of invest in newer directors, newer actors who are a lot cheaper, and also, build them up to be the big stars, just like what TV did back in the day. Because, TV actors, TV directors, like Steven Spielberg started as a TV director, and then he became Steven Spielberg because of that. So that might be the new formula, where you make your new names in the streaming service, and you just dominate the streaming service, as opposed to going to the theater side of things, since the theaters are going to be in short supply.
Steven Spielberg, because he broke the fucking shark.
There's also that. But he did Duel, he did Columbo, he did a lot of it.
No, Andre, you were going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, Rob, you were going to say something before we move on to the next.
Just for script. I mean, it really won't impact a lot of these actors, because unless you get points off the back end. Well, I mean, most
of that, and there'll be incentive for the actors to be like Eddie Murphy. I'm sure he got a nice payday for Beverly Hills Cop and an upfront for 5 as well, because they also made a deal for that. Like, that's the thing, is they're going to want to make those kind of deals. But yeah, I think unless you're one of these big actors, you're right, Rob. There's not going to be any points on the back end, though. Yeah, unless there's some kind of outside deal made. So yeah,
Just to clarify for people who are watching, points off the back end means you get a percentage of the box office.
Right.
Yeah, like Henry Cavill, for example, he didn't get a salary for Man of Steel. I almost called it Superman. He didn't get a salary for Man of Steel, but he did get points off of it.
Well,
and so he made about $12 million from it.
And somebody else brought up the point here in the chat I was going to highlight, but now I can't find it. But it goes off of what we're talking about here, basically. No, like, here's the thing. There is already precedent set for this, and that's exactly what they said was about The Irishman. They're going to have to really, like, knock our socks off for a while, because that was one thing that I know I talked about before, is that you have that stigma of a movie that goes straight to streaming. Look at what happened to, like, Scoob and stuff like that. That basically killed that franchise. Like, I have a feeling that's not going anywhere. That was supposed to launch this big Hanna-Barbera franchise.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah.
And I think that's DOA now. But what they're going to have to do is they're going to continue to have to, they may not kill that, and they may just have to eat that and continue to go on, because they're going to have to impress people and show us that they're not going to give us straight to video style crap going forward. We're going to expect the same level of Avengers and all that kind of stuff going forward. And God, Andre, who was it that we interviewed who said this, but basically said, you're competing with Avatar. That's what your movie's competing with. It doesn't matter if it's, good or not. It just matters if it's just as entertaining as Avatar, because they're paying the same price for a ticket to see Avatar. The same mentality goes here with a streaming service.
Was that not Tunnicliffe? I think
that was Gary. I couldn't remember if it was Tom or Gary.
I think it was Gary Tunnicliffe that said that.
But it'd be both of them, because they're both right.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember which
you're
one.
You're still paying the same price.
I think that was Gary Tunnicliffe who said that. Yeah, absolutely. Again, this just goes to show the complexities of streaming. That there's it completely changes the ballpark for everything. And moving on to the next super chat. Willie Woodward says, it's funny that Paramount and Peacock are on Roku, but not HBO Max. Well,
the reason for that might be more to do with AT&T and DirecTV and a lot of the bad blood that Warner Brothers and that crew have created over the years. I feel like has more to do with that. I don't know if anybody else has anything to comment on that, but I think that's more behind it. And I'm sure they're going to push and push and push to get it on more streaming services, because I also seen a report that Wonder Woman is finally going to be the first thing on HBO Max to be in 4K.
Yeah, I just hope we're going to get Dune in 4K there. Otherwise, I'll be pissed.
Oh, it will be, and that's why I knew this was all going to. Yeah, I mean, we knew this was all coming, but just I'm not surprised. As I said,
I fucking knew it.
but anyway,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get so much use out of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had a few more super chats.
Yes, we have a few more to go through. Alex Sarah wonders, so how much does this cut down distribution costs? And again, remember, there's still theatrical releases here. There are just much fewer of them. The scripts, how much does this cut down distribution costs?
Well, I mean, it just kind of, I wouldn't know the numbers for sure, but you've got a different distribution network. So yeah, I mean, because they don't print films and send them off to theaters anymore. I mean, if they do, it's very rare, but they're all patched into another network and they plug in and, showcase it. I would just imagine that a similar network is already in place for this. So however they run that is the case. If anything, you're looking at issues with regards to the deals of each film that they had with regards to their distribution. So the distribution costs that would normally be in the case, or I would see would be not even relevant, not even in play, negligible almost. And it's whatever deals the directors and actors and producers had with regards to what profit would be made from
I don't think it'll
distribution
change
that would have to be
much.
changed. Yeah. I can't see it being changing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just switching over from, instead of the distribution to theaters, because there was no cost really, other than at this point 90%
maintaining the network. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just they sent them a file.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. And they already have, most of these services were already going to be there, whether these other movies were there or not. So like, it's just the matter of having the servers, I guess, and you're just difference in the cost, because they're going to have to continue to advertise. Like all that stuff's going to have to stay the same. Like, yeah, like they're going to have to continue to push these movies like they're big blockbuster movies still. Now,
actually, yeah, marketing departments are probably going to make more money out of this than they did before.
Well, and you already see other advertisers on other streamers. I mean, I'm watching Hulu and I see a fucking Mandalorian preview, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously it's Disney, but I mean, it's not just there. I've seen, I think, things for Netflix and other things, and YouTube's always playing stuff for all of them. So it's not like they already don't. Yeah, the advertising part, I think, is going to come into the aspect of it too, as far as like, that's not going to change. I really don't think. But I know we got to round this out here. So yeah, let's continue on.
Yes, well, we have another question that I thought was really good that I would like to hear your thoughts on. John Apocalypse says, economy didn't affect video games and PlayStation 5, so why movies? There, I would first like to say, how are the video game retailers doing? And with that, Tom and Script and Rob, I'd like to leave it to you and hear, with the economy, it didn't affect video games, so why movies? Your take, and remember distribution.
Actually, it's video games are actually booming during this era because
yeah, but that's just
download.
digitally.
That's
I was going to say,
yeah.
What happened was in the last few years, we've seen every authoring production facility go out of business in the U.S. There's no longer any U.S. production facilities for Blu-rays, DVDs, and shit.
Well, you could still, but the thing is, you can still get them either from Amazon or Best Buy.
Yeah. But I mean, they've closed down all the major ones, so like that's why there was a backlog for a while before the pandemic. And that major reason for that was all these video game companies have moved away from physical, and movies have now moved away from physical, so the demand has gone away. So like they're all backlogged out of Mexico. So that's one. My point is that that's one industry that's already been killed by this. Is what I was getting to. Sorry.
The manufacturing side of things for the physical, yeah.
But back to the original question, Andre. We lost Andre, I think.
I guess we lost Andre. I mean, I don't. Here's the other part too. So technically, if you want to take a look at the video game model, like streaming is hoping that they're going to meet the video game model because it's the same parameters. It's direct to customer at home. You don't go to a movie theater to play video games unless you have a lot of money and want to rent out the theater for the screen. So that's just my take here.
Yeah. Well, until we get Andre back, I only got 2 super chats that I can go over. Trenchman sent in $1.99 says MOS isn't Superman, it's Objectivist Man. I'm going to agree with you, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who would disagree with you. But I do agree with you, Trenchman.
Don't get me started on Man.
Yeah, don't get me started on Man. Yeah.
We all have
we'll be here for a while. Mark C also sent in $5 says, "What about these films involving back end points? Do actors have a breach of contract suit available to them?" I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question. And I don't even know since you said that script, that tells me you probably don't have a good answer for that either.
All I can think of is it something that insurance would be able to cover?
Maybe. That's a plausibility. If not, they'll just give them some kind of.
Because it's a trickier situation. Because how do you? I mean, you can prove subscriber numbers, but how can you aggregate that for a specific movie? Because a subscriber of the entire.
I was going to say maybe they'll give them like a.
It'd have to be like a micro percentage, like.
Well, I was going to say like.
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead, Andre, and then otherwise I have an idea of how they'll do it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think they might say that. Look, in this atmosphere, the movie was going to tank big time anyway. You'd get nothing. That's what you get here. Nothing.
Perhaps otherwise,
away with that, but I bet that there's
going to try to. My guess is if it goes to some kind of court litigation type thing, what'll happen is they'll say like, yeah, you get a percentage point, whatever your percentage point was, it'll be X amount of cents per every original IP that watches the film, or like one original IP that watches. So like they won't get every single time somebody watches it from, specific IPs, but they'll get, okay, like let's say 500 million people watched Wonder Woman. Okay, well then Gal Gadot, since she had back end points, they'll cut her a check for $5 million and call it a day.
Or something of that nature.
That's what I'm saying. Like if it gets to that point, like, but I think you guys are right. I think it's kind of like everybody knows that that's the thing is it's a gamble. This whole thing's a gamble, and the actors take just as much of a gamble as the producers in the studio.
Yeah, it might actually just switch over to how it works for television with regards to royalties on the streaming side of things. They might just adopt those same type of contracts.
Yeah, it'll come with the advertising and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get the other super chats though, Andre, because I only had access to 2 of them. I don't know how many more we missed.
Fine. I have the whole list of them right here, and the next one in chronological order from oldest to newest that we haven't gotten to yet is from. I just have to find it back on the screen here. Yes, Jedi Master Seatopia asks, will studios spend $200 million in a film like Dune? Will they have to spend less and therefore look cheaper? Oh, you can take it to the bank.
Well, and I brought that up.
$200 million yeah, absolutely.
Everybody in Hollywood hopes that the $200 million film is gone because they hate it. It's so much harder to get greenlit. Yeah.
No, I brought this up before on like Mead and other podcasts, and I don't know if you agree with me on this. I think what'll happen is they're going to slimline everything across the board. Now it's going to piss off a lot of the guilds and all that kind of shit, but the studios are just going to be like, well, what are you going to fucking do? At this point, I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I think that's because everything is like the music industry. Like I was saying before, movies are bloated as fuck, and they're bloated as fuck because you've got 12 people doing one person's job, right? Most of the time.
Well, if it's not 12 people doing one person's job, which I mean, on the production side of things, like on the day of shooting, you don't really have. But it would be more like the dollar value with regards to the name recognition. That will have to change primarily because that's where you get your bloated aspect the most of in any.
Well, let me be clear. Like, okay, here's my point: is like the thing with the guilds and all these things. Like, instead of having like a guy who does who can handle 2 or 3 jobs, you have to hire specific people for specific jobs from the guild on each movie, and they have to be there. And if you don't adhere to these certain things, you can get big fucking fines and all this shit. So everywhere down from the key grip to the fucking craft services and the teamsters and shit like that is what I'm talking about. Like all these people that are like really non-necessary in a situation where like we're in right now. That's what I'm getting at. I don't know if you.
Well, that's kind of weird because
Yeah, no, I don't think they can cut there. Where they're going
No.
to cut is in the huge salaries. I will give you
Well,
one
that
example.
we know was going to happen.
Yeah,
but
but I will give you one example because only yesterday I spoke with someone in the industry. I'm not going to give any more details so as not to get this person or anything in trouble. But this person then told about a movie that had a listed budget of $60 million. That was the listed budget. He said that in actual reality, the movie cost $36 million to make. The division of those $36 million that the movie actually cost was $15 million to one star, $15 million to the other star, everything else, including the making of the movie, $6 million.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
and I've brought that up. That's the
And
first
that's
change,
like
yeah.
where you have to like make cuts. But again, that's like there's a fun thing. So in terms of production, it was a $6 million movie sold as a $60 million
But
movie.
and I brought that up before. That to me almost is like a non, point, because we already know that's nobody's going to get a $90 million payday anymore like Johnny Depp did. It's just not going to happen. That part is known. But my point is like the current situation has made it so these studios can get away with fucking with the guilds or unions, whatever you want to call them. They're the same goddamn thing almost, basically. But anyway, like that's what I'm saying is like you have to adhere to certain rules, and I think they're going to skirt around the rules because of this pandemic, and then they're going to use the situation of, well, now we're in streaming, we're not making the kind of money we were. But they say that to us now from behind the scenes, but again, in public, that movie still cost $60 million on the books.
Yeah, you're right there. I would say with regards to the guilds, their primary job is to make sure that everyone who's on a set is needed and is getting paid the minimum amount that they are required. So if you're looking for something with regards to the current situation, say for craft services, normally you'd have a team of maybe 3 to 5, and it's basically kind of like a buffet style thing. That would have to change because of the circumstances, to the point where each meal has to be privately prepped, which means you have more people on set for that to be achieved. You have to have a number of people meeting all the parameters, prepping all the meals, privately isolated, and then handing them off to each individual cast member and crew member. So it actually could risk inflation of that, which means they'd have to cut salaries of an expensive director, an expensive actor. There's even producers that actually don't do anything on a title other than securing the money, that get a huge kickback as a result of that. So that's going to have to be changed. So I think it's going to come more on the on-screen side of things as opposed to the behind-the-screen side of things.
Yeah, indeed. Moving on from there, this also then answered the question that was quite similar from Keith Rogers, who said, will the upcoming wave of major releases going straight to streaming serve as the swan song of the $150 million plus budget motion picture? And yeah, we already answered that in a related question. So then moving on, Jorge Burgos Jr. said, remember the 1980, 1990s direct-to-DVD movies? Oh, yeah, I like them. Project Shadow Chaser and Cyber Cop for the win. Nemesis 2. So yeah, I think that we're going to go back to like more movies like that, probably. And Michael Strelitz says, no sex in a show and no AC. Called boring, just action. And Mark C says, for $10, thank you so much, AT&T only sees short term. They bought DirecTV, redirecting money away from building an internet network when streaming was on the cusp of exploding. It's been dumb decision after dumb decision.
Well, you have
that was a different AT&T that bought DirecTV. They're not all there. Those people aren't there anymore.
Well, the whole logic behind DirecTV is that you don't even have to launch a satellite. You just rent the space on the, someone else pays for it, and you just pay them to, if it's already in orbit, especially, and it's all wireless, as opposed to having to actually string fiber optic cable throughout how many X amount of cities.
All of them, yeah. I mean, DirecTV is basically bouncing off of Bell TV satellites that they have 3 of them in orbit that I know of. Yeah. and they sell usage of that to all the other satellite networks. So And then on top of that too, Bell also did lay down a fiber optic network from coast to coast across Canada, and it's doing really well. And Bell and AT&T are kind of the same company, just under different names in different countries.
See, yeah.
They should be able to do the fiber optic itself, except it's going to be like at least a minimum of 10 times more expensive because of the density of the United States.
See, the whole thing was at that time, the telecoms were doing everything they could not to upgrade their service and their networks.
Yes.
And wireless was the perfect way to do it. Anything without having a wire. Satellite, oh yeah, this is a winner. Take a look. We don't have to do shit. We just charge people for the service they already have.
To a point, but
they rent a dish.
Yeah, and they rent the equipment for us, and it didn't work very well. That was the downside.
And AT&T's got to get rid of DirecTV anyway. But yeah, no, they did a big push with the satellite thing, and I remember they bought out that, what is it, Voom or whatever the hell it was, the first HD satellite and all that stuff.
The other thing too is they offloaded all their landline telephone and internet services to different companies. Verizon, I think, bought a couple of them. Frontier, which is abysmal, they bought a couple of them. Frontier's on the verge of bankruptcy now.
But yeah, we can't get too deep into these trenches. But yeah, anyway.
We have a few more super chats to go through. SHS Rebels 08 sent us a $19.99 super sticker. So thank you so much, because stuff like that is what keeps the light on. So we really appreciate that. And Stephen Otten says, any truth to the story that HBO Max is canceling its free trial option prior to the release of Wonder Woman 84?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I'd be more surprised if they kept it at that point. Yeah. Script, you know anything about that?
No, I would be surprised if they kept it also, because again, they need to make that money back in any way they can.
Right. Well, and not to go too far off, like I was saying before, I think we're going to hit that point where once the theaters are done with, once they've got everybody on board, they're going to start doing the same thing Disney was doing already with the premium movies on the services you watch.
Well, I would say it this way. The smartest marketing aspect I can see of is with a purchase of renting Wonder Woman on HBO Max, it comes with 1 month free subscription.
Or something like that. But or you'll have I think it's going to be more like Mulan. I think they're going to have, you have HBO Max, but now you can get Wonder Woman now, or you can wait 3 months and then you can see it. But if you pay $30 now, you can see it now. Plus you're already paying on top of the HBO Max. But that goes into where I was saying is, they're going to need 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks sometimes to pay for some of these bigger movies. And just people are like, oh, that'll never happen. But it's starting to happen already. I've been right so far. I mean,
and they only want that money to get the money now. Like they could make that money back over years, but that doesn't work well on the spreadsheet for a business.
No, and that's just it. Like Andre was saying, the big deal here isn't even so much, it doesn't really fucking matter. It's Fugazi if they've got 50 or 70 million subscribers on Disney Plus. What matters is that it boosted their stock, which was going to be in the fucking toilet if they hadn't.
Exactly. And that's what all this is about. This is about basically gaining the confidence from the market. And Disney has now shown that healthy subscription numbers on their streaming service, getting to be one of those top tier services, is a very good way of doing that, because that tells investors, okay, they have this going for them. Everything else is going down the drain. But all that means is that a ton of people are going to lose their jobs. That, of course, is devastating for the thousands upon thousands of people that lose their revenue. But the market doesn't care as long as they see that, okay, the company is doing what they need, and they're becoming a dominant party in this new market. We have continued faith that they're going to be able to pay their bills, so all is good.
Yeah, and we're aware of the fact that HBO Max is not global yet, but this will be something over the next year, so that they will be.
Mm-hmm. If next 4 years.
At least.
Yeah,
at
it's not
least.
going to, because the distribution deals that they have around the world, some of them don't expire until 2024. So that's the point when they can truly go global. And then depending on local markets, they can like do like local rollouts earlier. But truly global, that's not going to be until 2024. But until then, they have to build their brand in the US. They have to be one of the top tier services. Right now, they're not there. And with that, we have that ties us nextly into the super chat from Death of Star Wars, who for $10, thank you so much, says, I thought HBO Max was for HBO's original content shows and other studios' content, but I didn't think it would have WB movies and TV shows and DC. It should be called WB Max or WB Plus to get more subscribers. Actually, you raise a really good point there. And that's the self-inflicted wounds that HBO and Warner have given themselves over this stupid branding confusion. Like, I've discussed this with Tom. Like, how many HBOs are there?
Well, technically there's 3, and I still think there may be an editorial in this for this reason. And yeah, it's because I have no idea. I really couldn't tell you that it's worth the research. And like I said, there still may be an editorial in this because that was their biggest fucking mistake starting off. They had every means to make HBO Max a true competitor in this race out the door. All they had to do was roll over HBO Now. I don't know why they didn't. I'm not sure what the resistance was. I don't know what the licensing issue was, because as far as I know, it's all the same shit. Because there's all these other movies that are on HBO Max that are not Warner Brothers because they're attached to the HBO license. So as far as I know, it's all the same deal. Because HBO Go, as far as I know, was just like a similar thing, but that was attached to like the cable companies, I think. But that's the one I believe they rolled over into HBO Max. So again, that's a bunch of confusing shit I would love to get to the bottom of, and I'm kind of curious about myself. So it's really stupid how they managed to fuck up this almost like sure thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think HBO Go is like a mobile version of it as well, which can still be integrated into it without any issues. Yeah. And
that's the other thing is, like, because I think HBO Now is on everything that I know of. So like, I don't know why they just didn't roll it over into that, unless licensing wise they couldn't. But I'll try and find some of that shit out, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of that part of it. But no, beyond that, it was one of the biggest snafus in history. And here I made fun of the Peacock for months. Like, that's the dumbest fucking name I've ever heard for a streaming service. And I still stand by it. It's the dumbest fucking name I've ever heard for a streaming service. But I think when I looked last, they have almost 30 million subscribers, so they're not doing too shabby.
Yeah.
I have to say that I like the name HBO Max, because they go off like HBO, that brand was made huge worldwide by Game of Thrones.
HBO, yeah.
But what they should have done was basically cut out everything else, kill ordinary HBO, kill HBO Nordic, kill all their other things, and just have HBO Max, and to focus all their branding on that. Forget what you've heard before. Now we're HBO Max, and that alone would
call
have
it
helped.
HBO Worldwide. That would really sell it.
Well, just HBO Max was perfect branding. I said that from the start.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that would have sold everywhere. It's like, ooh, this is the thing that gave you a Game of Thrones, only even better. Now that Game of Thrones sucks and is dead. But yeah, that's the path not taken.
Because the one thing I did say was Disney Plus had it right from the start. They made sure they had their name first and foremost. And that was one thing where I was like, what the fuck are you thinking, Peacock? Everybody knows what Universal Pictures is. Why don't you call it Universal Streaming or Universal Plus or Universal Max or whatever? And I've said, yeah, everybody knows what Warner Brothers is, but you got one thing that's different in the Warner Brothers camp. They have HBO, and everybody knows what the fuck HBO is. Like, you don't even have to be like, speak English, and people would know what you mean when you say HBO. Like, oh, yeah, HBO. You know, like, it means something everywhere.
Exactly, it does.
And it's a shorthand for, we know it's movies, entertainment, sports, comedy, all that shit in one place, and it's unfiltered kind of thing. You know, like, we get that. That is easy to plug into. where they fucked up here is the best question you could ask. I don't know how they did this or why they did this, but it was.
Oh, I have some thoughts.
I'm sure. Well, I can't wait to hear
yeah.
more about it and dig more into it a little deeper. Because, like I said,
Well,
there still may be
don't know.
something here.
I have some thoughts. I have some. It's typical corporate branding, competing departments. Fighting for branding and different visions from the various product managers and product owners. It's stuff like that. It's just like competing visions, so that the whole corporation doesn't pull in one direction, but rather different directions, and one company ends up screwing itself because of it. That's the usual reason, and you have like various things inside of it, but it's going to be something like that. But anyway, we have a couple of more super chats. Somtar says, make Brad Wright make a 20+ episode Stargate spin-off series with a reasonable budget like it had on Sci-Fi. I'll subscribe for 12 months for each season. Oh yeah, hope they'll take your advice then. And Primal Plasma says, I'm a grown man and I just purchased a subscription to Fortnite Crew yesterday. $11 a month. I'm getting rid of one of my streaming services for this. Exactly. Thank you, Primal Plasma. That's my point exactly. And that is why they are doing this. That is why HBO Max has to be one of the services that you can't get rid of. That's the whole point, that they all want to be a part of like those 2-3 golden services that everyone must have. Because if they have that, they're golden. If they don't, they're in competition with all the other also rans. They're going to be much heavier afflicted by piracy and all of that jazz. So that's why they're doing this.
Because like what's funny is I remember 2 years ago or whatever, when we first were getting on the whole CB All Access stuff and they were talking about this and that and the other being the top streaming services, I kept pointing out they're missing HBO. HBO should be here. They have a streaming service and they have over 30 million subscribers at that time. I mean, I don't even know what they had when HBO Max started. They might have had double that. That was just me going by what they knew what they had last. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I have no idea why they did this way, and I would love to know the true answer. And I think you're right. It has more to do with internal politics and probably some licensing shit, like I said, too, and a few other things. But, again, this has got to be one of the biggest and this is the only way they're going to be. This is it. This is do or die for them at this point.
Indeed. And Cedric Taylor 08 says, what's going to happen to pay-per-view?
Well, cable and satellite will probably always have a small audience to continue to serve. And those kind of things will stay there. And same thing with the streaming PPV kind of thing too. You know, you're not going to be able to cut out all these things, because that's one thing they're going to learn early on. And we've been bringing up too, is killing Blu-rays and DVDs and doing all this straight to streaming stuff without having a theatrical release or window or anything like that is going to kill all their secondary markets. Because there is only one market now, and especially if you're dumping it straight to your own streaming service, yeah, you're cutting out the middlemans in a lot of ways, but it's still costing you X amount of money to advertise for that movie, cost you X amount to make it. And, you know, you're only getting so much of a percentage from all your subscribers towards a movie when somebody watches it. So again, it's how they figure all their maths behind the scenes and how they figure what's worth spending money on, basically.
Yeah, indeed. And Dark King 616 for 10 Australian dollars. Thank you so much. With the profusion of streaming services, are we going to see survival of the fittest start to whittle the number down? Where will the exclusive content on the defunct services go? I absolutely think that's what's going to happen. But here I want to hear from Script Doctor. All the services that won't make it, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to their content?
It's going to be sold off for the cheapest price. That's the unfortunate truth of the matter, is that if, say, for instance, speculatively, Paramount Plus does not succeed and it ends up bankrupting the entire studio, what have you, they will unfortunately have, those that are left in charge will have to sell off everything, and it'll just be a subtle takeover of that studio and all their properties, and it'll be sold in bits and pieces across all the different streaming services.
Well, we kind of already saw a preview of that with Crackle.
Yeah, and that's Sony's thing right now.
Yeah, Sony knew they weren't going to go anywhere with that, so they sold anything worth a shit to Netflix. And I mean, it's still there, I think, but it's got like nothing on it. They don't do anything original anymore.
They have not invested in it at all. They can't afford it right now.
But like that Seinfeld show went to Netflix, and all their movies that they were going to put on there, I think, went over to Netflix now, and some other deals.
They were going to launch there was rumor they were going to launch James Gunn's Starsky and Hutch series for Crackle, as like The Mandalorian was for Disney Plus, but that everything all changed. Man, like over the last 4 years, everything's changed. All their plans are out the window pretty much.
See, that's pretty much the answer to the question is unless you're somebody like AT&T, Disney, or Amazon or whatever, or Universal for that matter, your Netflix, you're going to basically have to figure out where you're going to put your shit. Sony doesn't have a streaming service. MGM's never going to be able to afford a streaming service.
No.
It'll be interesting to see if Paramount can actually maintain a streaming service. Lionsgate's never going to be able to do it.
No, but one thing that we're seeing is to be an axiom with regards to streaming services that you need a flagship show to draw people in.
Right, exactly.
And Sony could do that if Ghostbusters Afterlife does well and they get the right team behind it. Sony could actually launch their own streaming service with Ghostbusters. Then they could probably do fairly well. I would say like 15 million subscribers.
Honestly, if they were going to do it, they would have done it with Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Cobra Kai would have been another great.
They didn't. Well. They did that.
They didn't. No, they dropped the ball huge on that.
No, I don't think Sony plans on doing one at all. I'm honest. I
know they don't.
Honest with you. If they were going to, I think they would have with Cobra Kai. I really do. I think they would have been like, fuck it, we're going to do this. We're going to throw it on Crackle. We're going to push this or rebrand Crackle or whatever they would have done. I think they're just banking on selling their shit to Netflix and Amazon.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think they want to just be a third-party studio that sells their stuff to whatever streaming service gives them the best deal and stay safe that way.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if like MGM gets sold to somebody like Warner.
Yeah.
Maybe Sony and Paramount will find a way to merge. I mean, I don't know, Andre, this is more your, and I know we got to go here soon, but I mean, that's more your domain. Do you see anything like that happening?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What we're seeing right now is a massive, massive shift in society at large, but also in the entertainment industry. It's going to, we've spoken about this before, but what's going to happen is that the really huge ones, they're going to consolidate their powers. And all the ones that right now are like mid-tier, that can't get up to that top tier, they're going to sink down into the mid-tier, and they're going to have everything removed from them, and they're going to have to either restructure their business to be a pure content creator that sells or licenses all of their output to the bigger parties, or they're going to have to be bought up by the bigger parties, or they're simply going to have to be shut down. That's what we're going to see. So I don't think that like 5 years from now, I don't think that Sony is going to be in the film business anymore. And if they are, they're going to be there with like a heavy deal with Disney or like a Disney subsidiary. And
right. Actually,
they're going to have to be bought up by someone.
Their television division's worth more than their movie division, I'm willing to bet.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to have huge changes in the studio landscape and production company landscape in the years to come. Everyone that is not top tier, they're going to have to completely change their business in order to stay competitive, either by making themselves more attractive for a sale or by shifting to become a pure content creator and entering some kind of distribution deal with one of the big ones that are still going to be there.
Well, that kind of takes us back to that video game question. Basically, then what you're seeing is like the big streamers are like the basically they're the PS, the Xbox, the Nintendo, what have you, and then all the whatever's left over is going to be like the third party companies making all the other stuff that the big companies don't get behind, basically, the third party people, the distributors or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly, and as Stephen Murphy is saying in the chat here, AMC, that would be the chain. They're in trouble, aren't they? So yeah. And again, going back to like the video game question, just like the video game retailers, the film retailers, as in the cinemas, they are in for a world of hurt. And with that, I do believe we are caught up with super chats, and I think that we have caught up with pretty much everything there is to say about this topic for the time being as well.
And I still think it's funny that nobody picked up on our reporting on Bond, really, that I noticed. But yeah, that'll be the next window to see how that turns out. And again, I'm not going to be surprised when it happens.
Well, here's the thing, though, that right now with Warner, now that they have moved the entire entire theatrical slate to HBO Max, do they need to acquire Bond on top of it? Do they still need to do that now, when they already have announced this is what we're going to be filling in HBO Max with until such time that the Snyder Cut is ready? Are they now in a position where they need James Bond? I don't think that they are. I don't think that they need it anymore.
HBO?
Yeah.
They
HBO
do,
Max.
but that's the thing, is that's going back to what we were just talking about, is that Sony, MGM, Lionsgate, all these little companies, right now, all their big movies for the next year, we're gonna hear they're gonna be thrown to Amazon, Netflix,
There's a bidding war gonna
HBO.
be
There's
launched,
gonna yeah, and that's what happened with No Time to Die, is nobody was interested in it before HBO Max made this move, but now HBO Max made a move, and that's what I was being told by my source. So then Apple came back to the table. What the highest offer they had gotten was 400 or 450 at that point. So the movie's still going to sell for a little bit, but it's not going to sell for nearly as much as they want. But that's what it's going to be, is like the streamers are going to know they're in a bidding war, but they're also not going to, they're not going to go nuts. My guess is that No Time to Die is going to make a deal for about $500 million. I don't know where it'll go yet, but that's another one. We haven't mentioned Apple once in this whole thing because they're kind of a non-starter, but they are making a lot of fucking moves right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the Asimov adaptation, Foundation, for one.
Right, and they've also been putting their hands on some other things. They made a bit of a stir with the whole Charlie Brown thing, but you know what? It got them in the fucking news, and they got to be the good guys at the end because they ended up giving the movie to PBS, or the show to PBS to show for free. So, and that's just free advertising for them. That was a perfect move on their part, if you ask me. They turned bad press into gold, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, nobody was talking about Apple before that. Apple's been nothing but a non-starter in this conversation.
They don't have any tentpole shows to draw in viewers. I think
not yet, but we'll see what Foundation.
One day they will. I mean, there's Foundation. I remember they were working for years on this one about a whole society that are blind and they have to use like string to walk around. It's like they have some crazy ideas in the works, which I have no doubt will definitely draw some interest to them. But again, they're not rushing anything over there, which is a smart move, I would say. And they don't have to, because they have all that. They have all their Apple products that are bringing in tons of revenue for them. So they've got money to burn.
They created an eliteness there. They're going to have that elite kind of thing. And then they might get Bond. Going to Cedric Taylor's $5 super chat here, says Bond is dead, to skirt won't work. We could get in all day about the movie itself, but that doesn't matter. I have a feeling that if Apple really wants to, they could have Bond. Yeah. So it's gonna, and it may go to Apple now, because I have a feeling that HBO would have rather made that deal before they dropped this trailer, because they would have probably loved to have had that in this trailer, is my guess. I don't know what you guys think on that, but again, I mean, I believe it. I believe the meeting happened now. I mean, this basically confirms pretty much everything my source told me, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, indeed. And Adam Wofford just said, what if WB said they were making Dark Tower series for HBO Max and really push hard? I don't know I don't know the fandom man for the Dark Tower, but I think that the movie destroyed it.
Yeah, that got ruined by that movie. But I just got some news from my source. Disney is reacting to Warner. They're calling an emergency meeting at Pinewood tomorrow in UK.
Who, Disney?
Yes.
With regards to this Warner announcement, hey?
Yes. Dollars to donuts. Guess what's going to happen? Black Widow coming to Disney Plus, folks.
To fight off Wonder Woman, yep.
Guess what?
I fucking knew it!
Exactly.
I'm going to love using that. I'm sorry if I kill that clip for folks, but I've been wanting to use that all day.
Yeah, it's well learned. But no, there you go. Now, what just happened, everyone watch is still watching? For the first time, HBO Max suddenly became a contender, and they spooked Disney, and they spooked them
Disney
bad.
just blinked.
Yeah, Disney blinked. So you heard it here first. And this was a legit inside tip from the same source that told us much of the stuff that's now being reported, because remember, we were doing an editorial on this, but they just got ahead of us. So yeah, Disney will be having an emergency meeting tomorrow, and I bet you that what's going to come out of that is HBO Black Widow was going to Disney Plus no matter what.
Or that, or they'll announce the 18 plus like you're talking about.
But now it's either way, it was going to go to some Disney service earlier than anyone thought. And what they said before about it's going to the bull crap. It was never going exclusively to theaters. It was always going simultaneously to Disney Plus or Disney 18 Plus with a theatrical release. They just haven't announced it yet. And we're going to learn very, very soon how Disney will respond to this. Exactly what kind of announcements we're going to get, I do not know. But
we're going to get about 5 spin-offs of The Mandalorian. I bet it know too. Yeah.
Well, we always see 3 backdoor pilots, so yeah, we're going to get some more.
Yeah.
John Willis wants another one. What do you say, Andre?
coming in fall of 2022, Marshall Dune.
Marshall Dune.
Yep, probably.
I'd watch the hell out of a Cara Dune show.
Yeah, you never know.
Cleaning up Navarro one town at a time.
Maybe we'll do one more before we go, John, but I don't want to overdo it. But no, it's scary at the same time, as much as I'm goofing and joking about it, because I am a theater lover. And again, goes right back to my initial point when we started out. Warner Brothers just made this choice for us. And Disney's obviously going to react to this if my source is correct, which I'm assuming they are.
You know what? It's funny. Warner has made this choice before. If you think back a decade and a half to the trenches of the format war between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray, if memory serves, what really ended it was the moment when, was it Disney or was it Warner that decided that we are going to skip HD DVD support? I think it was Warner that did that.
No, Warner did both. It was Disney that decided that one. That's why I said this is the first time where Warner has pulled in and decided the war, because any other time they've been fence sitters in any of these format wars in the past. Since they have their own distribution, they have done pretty much every format.
Mm-hmm.
But Disney has been the one to decide every format, pretty much. Like once Disney jumped in the game, it was VHS that was winning at that point.
Yeah, because Betamax was superior.
Yeah, and then the same thing with DVD over DivX, and then the same thing with Blu-ray over HD DVD.
And DivX had Lucasfilm behind it, if I recall.
DivX had not just Lucasfilm, but Spielberg behind it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so yeah, this is the first time ever Warner has jumped the gun on and that's why I think Disney blinked. I think that's why my guy just got back to me like right now, like shit's going down. Like we're gonna see, because this announcement, like again, this doesn't.
This was a major escalation
Yes.
of the streaming wars.
Because, like I said, this proves my point that it has nothing to do with theaters being open. Because theaters could be open next fucking month. HBO don't care. They need to sell HBO Max. That's what their people have been telling them. Cross the fucking board. The moment that deal was made with Legendary, that's when they dropped this trailer. I guarantee it. Because that's why I said I guarantee you if they had a chance to put Bond in here, they would have. Like, they're trying to sell this puppy. This is what I've been trying to tell Andre for weeks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying you didn't understand, but you just couldn't, like, we kind of been bouncing back and forth. Like, I'm like, no, you just don't get it. This is a big fucking deal. You know, it's like,
yeah. Tom has been all over this. So yeah, Tom was completely right. And so was, your source has been completely vindicated in everything.
I would not be surprised that come January, there's going to be a big floodgate of Disney saying we are going to greenlight the best pitches we get in that month.
Could be.
Like, they're not even going to worry about development stuff. They're just going to be like, hit the ground running. Because they took this year off, technically.
Well, and here's the thing is, I'm sure that HBO kind of panicked, and I don't want anybody jumping down my fucking throat. But, like, I'm sure that the Snyder Cut announcement did not do what they were hoping it would do. But again, people know that this thing is not coming for a year. And even though they had probably a little, surge in people jumping on there, that's the big thing is they don't have any Game of Thrones shows like they were planned. This has been nothing but a disaster over there. They have been panicking. And now they're the ones who basically shot first. So, I mean, this is it, folks. The streaming war has officially begun. Like, this is it. We're in the thick of it now. It's coming. It's here.
Well, this was the Pearl Harbor of the, war has been
Gone from Cold War to Hot War.
Thank you.
This is the Pearl Harbor.
Yes, this is what I've been trying to fucking say all this time. Like, this is it, folks. It's happening. It's happening. That little meme of what's his face from The Office. This is it. And that's the perfect example right there, Andre. This was the Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Warner just pulled a Pearl Harbor on Disney.
Indeed.
Which is ironic because Disney was the one who released Pearl Harbor, but anyway.
Indeed. Yeah, there you go. With that, I believe we are all caught up. And I think we have covered everything there is to cover about this, haven't we?
Begun. The streaming war has.
That's the last time I'll be able to use that for a while, probably ever.
Yeah, and Primal Plasma sent us the final super chat of the day, saying, "I already dropped Netflix for HBO Max.
There you go.
Now I'm about to drop Hulu for Fortnite Crew."
Well,
yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's exactly why.
John Willis thinks they're freaking out and watching. Well, we're the main channel, Midnight's Edge, but do check out our sister channel, Midnight's Edge After Dark. People seem to forget that is a separate channel, because we did that before all the other people did their live channels a while back, and it just kind of turned into its own thing. But yeah.
And speaking of live channels, since everyone else was doing a live channel, we have to follow
thank you for my segue.
So that we now have a live channel too. It's called Midnight's Edge Live Archives. And what you'll find if you go to the Midnight's Edge main channel, which shouldn't be difficult because you're there right now, you'll find, where's this Bond discussion that we did like 2 hours ago? Where's this video going in 10 minutes? Well, they're all going away from here, and they will be re-uploaded in their entirety to Midnight's Edge Live Archives. So go and subscribe there. That would be much appreciated. Of course, we are going to be releasing an abbreviated version of this video on the main channel, but the full video.
How did I know you were going to say that? I'd rather you just, honestly, I'd rather you just do an editorial. But anyway, we'll continue. Go ahead.
Well, be careful with what you wish for, because one does not have to rule out the other.
I know, but like in the end, it's almost as bad. I'd rather just do an editorial. This is a discussion for after the show.
Indeed. And the Dark King 616 says, "You fools, you started the live channel wars." Actually, yeah, Mead did that. So thank you.
Kind of. Because we were like, we need another channel where we could do live streams and stuff all the time. Because at that point, nobody had really been doing live streaming. Like Gary was the only one who was really streaming at that, but that I remember. Maybe like EBS. But I don't even know if like World Class had started doing a lot of streaming. I think they were still doing videos and a few of the other guys. But anyway, point being, like, yeah, we want to do this other channel for live streams. And yeah, anyway, now we actually have a quote unquote live archive channel as well. So the links are in the chat for both. Please do check them out and enjoy. We got a lot of great stuff going up there. And we've got a lot of great stuff coming. So you guys really should subscribe to all of them.
Yeah, and we also have again, I have to tease this interview that we have coming in the next few days that I'm really excited about, and that too has an element of the streaming wars into it. So yeah, that's also very, very timely for that.
You almost should just announce it, but I don't know if you can.
I would rather get the absolute full approval before I do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So I want the entire video to be approved. Then we'll announce it when we drop it. But yeah, it's something that at least I am very excited about, and I know many of you watching will be too.
This is going to be one of the most epic things we've ever done, besides maybe the Robert Shea interview, and it's going to kill me doing it. But we'll get it hopefully by this weekend. I'm trying, folks. Yeah, it's been an uphill battle, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 hours of epicness. All right, with that, I would like to thank every single one who's been who are still here and who've been now hanging out with us for the last 2 hours, 3 if you count the James Bond stream. Both of these streams will be up on Midnight's Edge live archives. As we said, go there and subscribe. You'll find a link to it on the main channel here because it's a featured channel. Script Doctor, also thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
Well, thank you so much again for having me. You can find me on youtube.com/scriptdoctor. I'm currently working on my Mandalorian review, so that should be up hopefully today, if not first thing tomorrow. And you can also find me on Twitter at scriptdoctorphd. And if time allows, and I hope it will, I will be happy to join Tom over at Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Yeah, I believe we will be live in about 2 hours here, 2.5 hours, give or take. And yeah, I was corrected. I guess WCBS has been streaming for some time. I didn't know they did streams before, but check out WCBS Thinking Of. We want to thank Jeff again for joining us today on this stream as well, even though he had to check out a little earlier. Always check out their stuff. And you can check me out on Tuesday nights hanging out on the High Council. I am the Joe Pescopo of the High Council. I know, but I'm still proud to be as much.
Yes. And also, of course, Rob, thanks for being here, although you're not the biggest fan of Dune in the world. So.
Well, this goes beyond Dune. I mean, this is Dune. Yeah. It's like we were willing to put money on it.
Yeah, this is just part and parcel to the whole thing. I mean, that's,
Yeah, there you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Have a great continued day, evening, night, wherever you are. Bye.